On run? Are you going to run down Jersey Hollow or are you going?
Did you go for a run, Patty?
Yeah, I might want to go for a walk, but I'll see what Scott wants to do.
It'd be nice if we got some running time.
Oh.
Hi, Jared and Parker. All right, we'll give it like one more minute and see if anybody else hops on, and then we will get started. Okay, so are you here, Addie? I think.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to start today by kind of reviewing a little bit of where we are going and a little bit of what this week's assignment is, because there's some different stuff up there than usual. And then we will look at everybody's artwork, and I'll answer any questions anybody. We sent some files. Oh, okay. I will pop into my email and grab them while we're on the call, guys. So first, I just wanted to kind of hear from all of you. So we have, including this week, we have 6 weeks of the course, and then you have a 1-week break in there. So you have basically a total of 7 weeks before your portfolio gets submitted. So how are you guys feeling? Does that feel like I'm totally comfortable, that's plenty of time to get everything that I need to get finished, or I'm overwhelmed?
I'm trying to think of how many pieces I have.
Okay. All right. So Jared and Parker are confident. Hi, Kaylee. We're just chatting about the fact that you have about 7 weeks until your portfolio is due, and just giving a little feedback about how you're feeling about that. If you're feeling totally fine, like that's enough time to do the work that you need to do, you're happy with the work that you've produced, or if you're feeling nervous, anxious, overwhelmed, all of the above. Hopefully none of the above, but hi, RJ.
I believe I have 7 pieces done, so I'm feeling pretty confident about that. And I might have another one that I'd like to submit, and maybe we can look at it today.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
How are you feeling, Kaylee? RJ, Kaylee feels good. RJ, we're just talking about the fact that we have 7 weeks left until your portfolio gets submitted, and just getting a little bit of a feel for how you're actually feeling about that. If you're feeling good about it, prepared, overwhelmed. He says, whoa. I'll take that as a little bit of maybe overwhelmed. Okay. So what
I feel pretty good about it, I think.
Okay. So what I wanted to do to start is just go over a little bit of your assignment this week, because there's some extra stuff up there. So we're kind of doing a check-in point on your breadth work and scheduling calls and sort of where we're going. Since we only have 7 weeks, that means that there's not a lot of wiggle room and falling behind and all that. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and then we're going to look at everybody's work, which is always the most fun part anyway. So once you go to this week's content is up, you'll see that I put 2 different dates. So just like we've done previously, we're going to do some one-on-one calls where I'm going to chat with you, and we're going to look at the work that you've created and really work on making final decisions about your concentration, if you're still not positive about that, chatting about your breadth and putting that all together, and then also choosing the 5 pieces that are your quality pieces, and just making sure that you have all the information that you need to have in order to confidently submit your portfolio. So during those 2 weeks, we won't have the live call because I'll be chatting with each one of you individually. So there's 2 different dates, and you just need to shoot me an email on which one you prefer and which time you prefer. So one is Monday, April 20th, and there's a bunch of times listed underneath it. I have blocked out like half-an-hour time slots. I don't think it should take longer than that. I will talk to you longer than that if you need more assistance, definitely. And then the other one is April 27th. Okay, so you want to look at your calendar, talk to your parents if you need to, and then send me an email about which date and times you prefer, and we'll get that set up. Then I'm explaining a little bit of what I want you to have prepared when you come to the call, just to make sure that everything goes kind of quickly and smoothly. So like I said, during the call, and this is all written down for you, we're going to discuss your concentration pieces, as well as during that we'll talk about, are there still some that you need to fix or make adjustments to? If so, what needs to be done, and come up with a plan of how you can actually get that done in the time that you have. We'll figure out what pieces you want to send in as your quality pieces. So remembering you're sending in 5 physical pieces, and they can be from your breadth section, your concentration section, they can be a mix. So it's whatever we really feel are 5 of your strongest pieces, as well as, which I've talked to many of you about, what pieces also just translate so much better from people actually being able to see them in person as opposed to being able to see them digitally. So the point of the quality pieces are to help inform the readers a little bit more about your work so that they're getting to see it in person. Your quality pieces is part of, so the school that's submitting your portfolio for you, part of what they will get when they register you is the College Board will send them packaging materials and instructions for sending those pieces in. We'll have the same conversation about your breadth pieces. We'll look at what you have done, decide if any of those need to be fixed or adjusted, and then just I'll be there to make sure that you understand everything that you need to do for the final submission process, just to make sure that there are no, I don't want any like freak outs on May 8th, the day before that it's supposed to be submitted. You'll see on the website then, which you guys already know this, but just to make your life easy, there's a checklist of everything that needs to go into your portfolio. There are, there's one other image I'm going to grab that it looks like I didn't put on there, that tells you a little bit just about preparing your quality work, so about mounting and matting that work, which I will get up there later on today because it doesn't look like it's there for you. So I will add that. Then just like we reflected, which way back it may seem when you actually did your 12 concentration pieces, you're going to reflect on what you've done so far on your breadth work. Because again, we don't want to get to the very end and then be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I, missed a whole part of it. So there's a couple questions that you're going to answer. I've completed blank, so you're writing down I've completed however many pieces you've completed by the time we're talking to each other, which means that I still need to complete however many pieces, and so that means that you need to create blank pieces per week. So the goal of you answering those questions is just to make sure you're getting really honest with yourself of I need to make 2 pieces a week, I need to make 1.5 pieces a week, whatever it happens to be, just so that you know it and you have it on paper, because like I said, the end date is not going to move. And then you're exploring some ideas. So I still want to explore the following ideas. So if there are things in your head that you're thinking, I would love to see happen as I go into my next couple breadth pieces, write them down. You're going to spend a little time looking at the tracking chart that you've been filling out and just write down if there are any areas that you feel like you're really lacking or that you've really been ignoring. And those are good places and good ideas of things to then bring into your final breadth pieces. So that we can really easily look at your breadth pieces you're going to do just like you did with the concentration pieces, is you're going to put them all together onto one document. So putting the works in 3 rows of 4, just filling it up with as many pieces as you have, so that we can, again, look at how are they looking as a body together, because they're going to be viewed just like the concentration. They're going to be viewed individually, and they're going to be viewed as a grouping. And then I gave you, which you've seen before, the link to the rubric that the College Board is actually going to be using when they're looking at their work. And so you're going to look over that and assess where you think your breadth as a whole is currently falling. And I did make a note that you want to make sure that you're looking at the section, because the rubric is like 6 pages, making sure that you're looking at the section that is labeled breadth. And so those are all the things that we're going to talk about on the call when we're one-on-one. So before I move on from that, are there any questions about all of that? Anybody that's still really struggling with getting a school where you're submitting your portfolio, or you're feeling confused? And he says, not at all right. None, I think I'm good. Jessica, I know, oh, you're good now, Jessica. I know you were having some issues with your school. Oh, you found another one. Awesome. Okay. Cool. Good. Good to hear. Because I felt like I couldn't do much more of what they were trying to get me to do. All right, so everybody is good to go on that. Has anybody started uploading their images onto the website? No. Okay. That's okay. That's fine. I would really say you want to try and get yourself logged on there, and at least, okay, Addie's still waiting a password. You know, logged on there and playing around with it by April. So you still have some time. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you're doing this week, and then we're going to look at your work. So some of you may have seen this woman's work before. Not it's at least in the internet world that I look at. It's shared a lot, but we may not be looking at the same thing. So it's a woman who, she is a painter, but she actually she paints on people. So she turns the actual physical body into a painting. So when you look at them, they look like they're a flat painting, and then they move and they're actually a 3D painting. So there's a video interview with her where she shows some of her process and really talks about her mindset and her thinking and how she actually got into this technique of painting. And so the majority of the time when she's doing work, she's never painting on like a canvas or drawing on a piece of paper. She's always painting physical objects and trying to kind of do the opposite. We tend to look at physical objects and then try and draw them or paint them and make them look realistic. She's taking things that are realistic and painting directly on top of them and trying to make them look like a painting. So she does this to food, which is kind of intriguing, and some of the things she paints on I feel like would be really difficult surfaces to paint on. But so the goal of that is what I want you to really think about this week when you're getting into your breath piece is how could you push yourself to paint onto some different types of surfaces, and how does the surface that you choose to paint on really impact your work? So Jessica started to play with this a little bit last week, so when we looked at her work and she was painting on rocks. So what I want to do, I'm going to give you like a minute, and you can either just start typing or you can write it down and then share, is just kind of brain dump everything you can think of, all kinds of surfaces that you could create art on top of. Okay? Ready, set, and action. This is going to go faster than I can keep up with. All right, so that's my alarm telling us time is up. So I was jotting down some of the things that you all shared, which you all can see flying up and down the page as well. So what I want to just talk about a little bit before we look at your art is if you're looking through the list, and it can be something you wrote down or something that somebody else wrote down, one of the surfaces that you think might actually be kind of interesting to try to create on top of, and then how that surface is going to impact the work that you're creating.
We once hung a piece of clear plastic. It was like, I think it was a shower curtain, from between two trees, and then painted on it. And it was really cool because you could see through it, and it you could add stuff to the landscape behind it. So that would be wonderful. And then
when you were doing that, were you trying to like paint the landscape that you could see through the curtain?
No, not really. It was just to paint whatever you wanted on it, but you could do that technically.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Any other things that sounded kind of interesting and thinking about how that might impact your work? Or Jessica, you could maybe even tell us, since you already did a little bit of this, how it felt or how it changed when you were painting on rocks instead of paper. All right, let's see. RJ says, I actually think the broken glass idea could be interesting. At least that's what I'm envisioning. So, question, RJ, when you're thinking about painting on broken glass, are you thinking about having it already broken, or painting on a solid piece of glass and then breaking it? Painting first and then breaking it in a way that would tell a story. Yeah, that could definitely, that could be interesting even to see what happens. And glass is going to change how things flow. You could do some really fun layering, Jessica. It was different to paint on rock because it wasn't as smooth, but it made an interesting texture. It reminded me of an old Italian restaurant. Yeah, which is kind of fun. And it definitely did bring in its own texture to it, so that will happen. Jessica, I like the idea of drawing on something like an old book, maybe a fairy tale. Books are a great thing to draw on top of, because also sometimes that like white blank page just really makes us get stuck. So when you're starting with this other surface, it already brings you an element that you're kind of communicating with and working into your piece naturally. So that can be fun to do. I'm trying to. Yeah, yes, Addie, he might want to practice breaking glass first, depending on how serious he's trying to be. Cardboard, yeah, there's a couple artists that I follow that do a lot with cardboard, and cardboard can be really interesting, especially if you get the corrugated cardboard, because you can, in sections, peel off the first layer of the cardboard and then the corrugation is showing through, which creates a different texture, so you can bring in some different layers pretty easily within that. It's also a good thing if you want to go pretty big, because cardboard tends to be a lot cheaper than a big piece of paper or a big canvas, any of those things. So what I want you to try and play with in your breadth piece is playing with a new surface, whether you want to collage a couple surfaces together, if you just want an element to be a different surface, but really thinking about how you can work on a different surface, because that is automatically going to push your work in slightly a different direction. It's going to change how the medium that you use flows, how it feels, and it's going to change the overall look of the piece pretty quickly, and potentially change your thought process. So there's kind of two different ways you can go about coming up with a plan, and it's more sort of your personality and how your brain works. You can start and say, this is the surface that I want to create on, and then think about what materials, what mediums are going to go best on that surface, and what subject matter might relate best to that surface. Or you might already have a subject matter that you want to do, materials that you want to use, and then think about a surface that's still going to work around that. And as usual, if you feel like you're really stuck, or you have a surface that you want to work on but you're really unsure as to what kind of medium to actually use on top of it, if you come up with it today, feel free to ask while we're chatting. If not today, you can shoot me an email. But hopefully, I think the video of her creating is really intriguing, and maybe you all start painting on your food. All right, so I'm going to go into my email really quickly because Jared and Parker said that they just sent me something so that we can look at everybody's work. Yep, there they are. All right. Okay, cool. One more and I'm ready for you. Maybe my computer's being really slow. All right, that one. Next. All right, we are ready to rock and roll. Let me switch my screen. Okay, I may have to leave in about 10-15 minutes, but I will make sure to see the recording. Swim schedule changed half an hour earlier. No problem. All right. Share, share. And can you guys let me know that you can see the images? And you have to speak. I can't see you type in.
Let me find the mouse.
I see it.
I can
Awesome.
see that.
Okay.
That is really
Cool.
cool, by the way.
I see it as well.
Excellent. So here we go. So this is Jessica's. So Jessica, if you want to start and tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind your piece. Are you there, Jessica? And if you can talk out loud, because I can't see what you're typing.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay, alright. So my inspiration for this was I wanted to do something like bright and neon, and like my oil colors don't really like get that bright. So like I got a small set of like acrylic just to play with it. And I love cats. I want to do like an animal and then like a cool pattern around it. So I went with a cat because I love him so much. And then I just kind of like made up designs, and I love flowers and nature. So I just kind of put everything I like together.
Okay, so you were just sort of free-flowing while you created this.
Yeah.
All right. And is there anything specific that you want feedback on about the piece?
Maybe like if I could add anything or take anything away if there's like too much focus on one part, I guess. And like I feel like the cat's right in the center, so maybe like that isn't a good thing. I thought about that after sort of because I kind of like didn't plan it out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we, let's start by talking about the composition, because that will kind of encompass most of her questions of, is there too much, is there not enough, and then how do we deal with the cat being right in the center. So I'll let you guys go first before I chat.
I think that the cat's eyes are very strong, and I think that maybe by cropping it smaller, so his eyes are more the focus of the picture, it might kind of be a kind of interesting composition. But I really like the way it is now with the white outline around the cats.
Okay. Thank you.
So cropping's always like this, the wonderful, I'm just playing with it because I can.
Oh, great.
Kind of like the wonderful part of submitting things digitally.
Yeah.
And go in here and you can play with,
I definitely like the top half better. Like that's something I noticed. So.
So there, like you can go in and play with all these different croppings and look at the image a whole bunch of different ways without actually doing anything at all to your painting.
Yeah.
I do think this really quickly made it stronger.
I agree. I really do, yeah.
So
Yeah.
the magic of cropping.
I'll definitely think about that.
And so you might even want to, like, if you can do it on the computer if that works for you, or I just cut out, like, I just take pieces of paper and start to create little frames all around the actual physical painting.
Yeah.
See what's the most visually appealing. So other thoughts from the group on this piece?
First of all, I really like what you have there. I kind of like how the cat is in the center. It's sort of a surreal, very colorful, psychedelic, and I love that. I don't necessarily think you need to crop it. I think I sort of like, this is my opinion, but I sort of like the contrast between like the busy kind of like really colorful top to sort of like the bottom, which is a bit more like mellow and darker colors. I sort of like that contrast. I think it emphasizes the top a bit more.
Definitely.
What do you, Jared and Parker, think?
Well, I definitely believe that the upper part is definitely strong with all its details, and the artist incorporated those details on a cat, which made it appear spiritual and more uplifting of the cat itself. It made it definitely more interesting of a cat portrait. I believe that another composition that the artist could do is to slightly cut off the cat's left ear, slightly, like probably halfway in the ear, and leave that space on the right side just open, so we could have a more on the horizontal bars.
Go this way?
Yes.
Got it. Oops, I didn't just crop it. I did something crazy. Wrong button. Try that again.
That way, I believe that the artist in this composition could imply that there's some other space beyond the cat itself. But that's what my idea is, the composition.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I would definitely play with some kind of cropping.
Mhm.
Because it just like with just those slight changes in either one of those directions, it really quickly elevates the piece. So
Yeah.
like we talked about, this top part, the detail does look more intentional. It looks more complete.
Mhm.
So cropping the bottom out focuses on that. Or
Yeah.
doing this side cropping, because it does then instead imply this whole new kind of depth and changes the feeling of the detail again. So those little changes in either one of the directions really helps the piece just feel a little bit more finished and a little bit more grounded, and makes the cat and the pattern and the background really look like it belongs together, where there's something happening when it's full open like this with the white outline, and down here where they're, especially down in this bottom part, they're kind of fighting with each other, where up in the top, it goes back and forth between this, the cat feels like it's coming to the front and there is a background, and then if you look at it long enough, it kind of starts to flatten out, and sometimes it feels like almost like a photo collage. So just a couple croppings really start to push it in one of those directions and make it feel more finished.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, they're super simple solutions. All right, so this is from Mr. RJ. So RJ, if you want to tell us a little bit about your idea behind this piece, and also sort of how you're thinking you would do the final photo of it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I did, this is sort of a follow-up of what I did with my concentration, following the same storyline that I was telling in that portfolio over there. So basically, I'll just give you a recap. I probably told you before, but the story is about, like, these characters that all lived in a different time period, and they all suffer an untimely death, and they eventually, their stories intertwine in the underworld and the afterlife and all that. So this is the story of one of the characters, the werewolf character. So kind of like how he becomes what he is, and sort of simple. But I found I thought the best way to tell that story would be through like a comic.
So how are you, I mean, I like that you kind of presented it as a comic and we're seeing the whole thing. So how are you thinking the final, if you were photographing this to be uploaded into your portfolio, how would this be photographed?
The reason I photographed this one with my iPhone, first of, is because I have a scanner, but it actually like cut it off halfway because I was working with a bigger sketchbook here.
Okay.
So I'm actually gonna be stopping down the store today, or hopefully today, or maybe tomorrow, to get a bigger scanner so I could scan this whole, and then I'll send you a better picture so you could read it and look at it better.
And is it going to be scanned? So are we going to see the spiral bound that it's still in the notebook, or no?
Oh no, you'll just see like a page like in a comic book, like just the panels.
Okay, so we'll just see these two panels. Okay.
I had a lot of fun with this one. I took a lot of inspiration from, I'm not sure if anyone's heard of him, but Jeff Smith.
I haven't.
Okay, he does like graphic novels, and I took some inspiration from him.
Cool. So is there anything specific that you want more feedback on?
I'm not sure. Maybe if you could zoom in there, I'd like a little feedback on like maybe the shading, the contrast of the panels, like how I did some of them dark and the silhouettes. I'm not sure how.
So maybe everybody could talk about sort of the overall feel and presentation. Does it look
how it makes you feel, you know?
What are you thinking?
Oh, and just a note, where you see on the second page where the werewolf's eye, there's a blank panel right there. That one's going to be filled, but I'm going to do that digitally because I already have that drawing.
Okay.
It's going to be a close-up of the werewolf's bloody teeth.
Okay. while people are thinking about their comments, this close-up of the werewolf's eye just kind of gave me an idea for you for another piece. So this is kind of interesting, and it would be something newer that you could stick with your style, but you're presenting your style of drawing in a new way, of actually taking one of your figures, taking one of your drawings, and kind of breaking it into parts. So almost like we're seeing different windows. So in one window, you get a really close-up of a part of one of your figures, and then in another window, maybe it's farther away. So you play with all different proportions. So kind of like cubism, but not changing it in so many different directions. Because even with this, with these like nice drips that you have coming down from that overall could flow into an interesting composition and presentation of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. I think I'm gonna try that. Thank you.
Yeah. You could even play with, since you do drawing and digitally, you could even play with some that are just pencil drawn, some that are digitally placed into it, and play with a bunch of different techniques and see what happens.
Are you going to add color to it?
I'm thinking about that. I may add color. One thing I was kind of playing about, like maybe only adding one color, like only adding red. There's the phone. Or like only adding red to like different panels, and I'm still thinking about that.
Yes.
I would say partly. Do you know what piece number are you on? You know?
Is this piece I'm not quite sure which pieces this is. I'll have to take a look over and see how many.
So I would count that, but I think time-wise for you, because I think you're a little bit behind on the pieces, that I would, if you do add color, stick with the just adding one color and just adding it in some places, and have this piece be more of a black and white line drawing, which is still showing some breadth, but it's also saving you some time.
All right, thank you. I think I was gonna originally go with that. Like I kind of drew it as a line drawing, like so. That's why I messed around with the shading a lot here.
Yeah, I think especially for right now, that's what I would go with. All right?
All right, thank you.
Any other thoughts for RJ before I switch?
I believe the artist could alternate the box frames from black and white to color ones if you wanted to add color, but also want to maintain the line quality in the black and white ones.
Oh yeah, that would be fun too. Cool. All right, let me shrink us down a little bit, and I'm gonna jump ahead to Jared and Parker since they have to go early, and then we'll back up. All right, so this is, whoa, that just got giant. Okay, so this is Jared. If you want to tell us a little bit about your piece.
Whoa.
Hello. This is a still life I did maybe, I think, 3 years ago when I was 12. In this artwork, I wanted it to be a part of my breath piece because it shows my exploration doing still lifes and working with realism. And I thought this could be a really good break from the abstract trend that I was doing throughout my pieces. And I thought this would be a really great piece to represent that.
Is there any specific feedback that you want?
I would like feedback if maybe a different composition would be good, maybe a closer, or maybe just a narrow decomposition, or maybe just to change the shape of the composition really to make it interesting. Maybe that would be a bit helpful.
Okay, so we can start there. If any of you think that a different cropping of this or an overall different shape would, in your opinion, make this more interesting.
I like it. I think that maybe if the top half was slightly cropped so that you just saw the pig's eyes and then the paper money and the coins.
There it went. Okay. I'm playing with what you're saying. So like that.
Maybe down a little bit more.
Okay. Like there.
Yes.
All right. So that's one idea. That definitely does. I'm going to go back and forth so I can kind of see it. First and last. What do you guys think? Which do you like better? The cropped version or the first version?
I really like the new crappie. I find it really interesting, the horizontal panoramic view, and I think it'd be maybe a bit higher because it's kind of cutting off the ear and also the one of the 8 pigs' eyes.
Yeah, let me see this one. So this one was a bit higher. Yeah, I do like having some of the top cut off. It really changes the perspective of it, and I like the focus that it kind of puts on the pig and the money. So I would play around with some different levels up here of how much of it you're cutting off. But I think that really does bring something interesting to it, and it brings another interesting shape, as well as there's a lot of really wonderful detail in the money that you have down here, and it brings a little bit more of the focus onto the money itself, which is good. As well as there's a lot of negative space over here, and even this is kind of a decent amount of negative space, so that takes some of that away.
Mrs. Kane, I am going to have to go because we are going to go outside for a bit.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Yep.
Alright, see ya.
And I sent you my piece idea, which I'm not sure if I'm going to submit or not. But
Yes, you're on here somewhere.
okay.
So we will chat about it.
Bye.
We have to go. We have to go now.
All right.
Sorry, but thank you. We'll be looking forward to see more comments on the next pieces.
Yes, will do. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of cropping to the piggy bank. We're going to jump back up to wherever we are now. Okay, we did RJ. So, Kaylee. All right, you want to tell us a little bit about your piece?
Wow.
I really like drawing eyes, and I wanted to like incorporate that into my breadth. So, but I didn't want to like have it like just a normal eye, so I tried to find something that looks sort of like a pupil of the eye. So I found like a I did a sunset with the eye. So
yeah, so it was really interesting, and I don't know if I like was not able to see when I looked at this first properly or what my problem was. But at one point when I glanced at this earlier, this part over here, something must have been wrong with my computer. This part over here, it looked like this really faint drawing of clouds. And it was really beautiful in the things that I was seeing in my head, which is not there. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting because the question that you asked, should the rest of the face be added to fill up the rest of the page, or leave it how it is? I don't think you need to have the rest of the face. I'm gonna write myself a note to send you some images from a couple surreal artists, because I think that could give you a little bit of inspiration. But I do think it could be really interesting if whatever my mind was playing tricks on me earlier, when there was just this whole idea of where this face is, but instead of it being kind of this empty space, just having super, super light, which you could do with pencil, or a super, super light watercolor wash of like a faded sky, faded clouds, so that you're really playing with this push back and forth of, we see this eye, which is naturally implying to us that it's a face, and in the pupil of the eye, it looks like it could be a reflection, but at the same time, it's so bright and so detailed and vibrant that it makes us sort of not feel like it's a reflection. And then if you push back in this area where we think it should be the face, but it should be the sky, it becomes this really interesting, like back and forth interplay that you have going on. Other thoughts on this piece or comments?
I really like, first of all, like, amazing job on this. I think it's great. And I really like, one thing I like, and one thing I'm kind of a sucker for contrast. I really like the contrast in this piece. Like on the edges of it, it looks like it can kind of be a sketch, but as you get closer to the eye, it begins looking more realistic. And the ocean and the sunset add a bit of a surreal, real element to it, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's in the eye or it's looking in the eye. I think that's really cool. I don't think you need to add the rest of the face necessarily. I think that it's good as it is.
Yeah, and you did a really great job with detail, and these eyelashes really feel like they're coming out of the eye and like they're coming out at us, and this just little bit of detail underneath the eye to give us a little bit of wrinkle and skin. So good job. I think maybe even you seem to do really well at these like small silhouettes and these really big close-up pieces. So keep thinking about playing with that, of just bringing in details of things that you like to draw. But overall,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
I
that's good work.
I'll shoot you some images of some surreal artists, and then I have to try and find somewhere. I was looking today. I think I pinned it on Pinterest. There was a drawing that was sort of like what you did last week, of these two different worlds on top of each other, and they were coming together with a ladder, that I wanted to send you because I thought it might help you out with that piece. All right, so this is Addie's, and she's been playing with paper cutting. So I'm pretty sure that's what these pieces are. Yes, if I read. They are paper cuts. So what she wants to hear back from you is about the overall placement of the paper cutting. So the 6 paper cuttings together. If you think the placement is good, and if you think that it's interesting enough.
I think the placement's good. I like how it's organized by like each square is like a different design in them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I think she could try to like mix it up a little more just to see how it might look with it, because I think that would also look really cool.
I think maybe even playing with a different color background. So seeing what do these look like if you put it on a black background. What do they look like on a white background, or like a gray background, something more neutral. There's something right now that the backgrounds and then the paper cutout pieces are really speaking 2 different languages. So the pink and with the texture is this kind of like really bright, springy, free-flowing, carefree brush strokes, lots of energy to it. And then the paper cuts are very clean cut, intentional, rhythmic. So they are sort of like 2 different languages kind of speaking at the same time in the same piece. And I think they're detracting from each other a little bit. The other thing, which I guess I could play with right now, that I'm wondering is even what do they look like kind of as an individual thing as opposed to 6 pieces all lined up. So let's see. Okay, so that I made that kind of pixelated. But even that in of itself right now is stronger than because the 6 pieces on the pink background right now still look like 6 pieces on a pink background, where you want them to all come together and look like they're all elements of one piece. So they also kind of remind me of a quilt, and since you like string and sewing, even potentially thinking about putting them on a darker background, and maybe there's a sewn line that's running between each one of them. Maybe there's a drawn line. They need to be connected a little bit more to each other so that they're no longer, so they're not 6 individual pieces all put together, but they're all pieces flowing into one thing. Which I think switching up the background color might do that pretty quickly for you. So as you go in and play around with that, if you want some more thoughts or feedback, feel free to send me some like in progress things of different things that you're trying out and how you're actually putting them all together. Any other thoughts for Addie?
Oh, just how I like how each one has a different feel. You know, the ones on the top right kind of feels like a kind of an islander tattoo sort of feel to it. Mm-hmm. One on the bottom left feels like sci-fi, like retro sci-fi kind of thing. I think one thing that could be kind of messed around with here is the background color, as you said. Mm-hmm. But maybe it doesn't have to be one background color. Maybe it could be like a black border, and for each different square could be a different color, like the one on the right could be blue or something like corresponding to whichever mood portrays it the best, you know?
Yeah. That made me think of, as you were saying that, so I don't know the answer to this. I don't know if the white paper cut is already glued onto the black back or if they're all kind of laid on top of. Because the other thing that you could play with, which is sort of, I think, what RJ was talking about as well, is maybe the white isn't always on a black background, or maybe there's like another cutout layer. So maybe these black squares are cut out again, and then we see a color showing through them, which you could really play with looking at quilt design if you started to go there. So that could be another way to tie it in, that some of, like, if the background was going to be pink, that pink shows up a couple other places and it becomes no longer just the background, but it becomes part of the pieces. So if you know, some of these black lines maybe show through and see the pink. So those are a couple different things to play with. All right. And last one, I think it's the last one anyway, so this is one from Parker, and I do know, so this is an older piece as well. This is a drawing that he did a couple years ago, and you all can totally do this, you know, going through your old artwork if you have some pieces that you really love. This is a nice way to kind of get some extra pieces knocked off. You are not at all cheating. There's no requirement that the artwork that you put into your portfolio is done within a certain time period. So it's a totally acceptable thing to do. So Parker has been working in a lot more kind of abstraction as well. So this is a nice kind of flip back showing a more realistic drawing. So when you all look at this, what do you think about the composition and the mark making?
I like the mark making that he used because it looks realistic, but it also looks like a sketch by the way he drew it, and it's very interesting.
Yeah. These marks over here right along the side of the face, let me blow this up some more, are really wonderful and really important. They help to just break up that negative space just a little bit so that it's not just this empty background around the face, and starts to bring in almost a little bit of a horizon line. We can see up here, which I always really love to see in artist drawings. I think it's kind of when you get to see a little bit of their process. So you can see that the searching lines of, okay, so first the hat was going to be up here, but then the hat moved down here. And you can even see some of that in the face, but there's kind of this wonderful quality to that, that when an artist does that, you're getting to see the artist process and almost a little bit more of a story of the drawing and the artwork actually coming to life, which I think is really wonderful and fun to see happen. It is a good kind of break and transition in your breadth pieces, because it's not like a lot of the work that you previously created, so it shows another element of what you can do. And there's some really good kind of shading. You have a great range from really light up on the hat to really dark down here, going back and forth so that the hat actually looks like it's sitting on top of his head. Some great shading over here in the eye. Any other thoughts or comments for Parker?
I like the shading. The shading like below the hat kind of looks sort of like mysterious to me.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Also, I kind of like the idea of putting it in the middle of your portfolio, because it is kind of that the transition, and I think it's a really, really cool piece, I think, to include.
Yeah, cool. No, that's not. So this one, I just pulled up. So this is one we looked at from Addie last week, and she was working on how could she make the dog become more finished. So we had talked about adding some kind of bolder gesture lines around the dog to make him come across as being a little bit more finished. So what do you guys think?
I think it helps the dog stand out more, so it, like, you can see it better, sort of, like, almost.
Uh-huh. The one other thing I'm just kind of looking at now that could be interesting and bridge even more of the gap between the two is doing some collage for the tongue of the dog. So either bringing in different shades of pink to collage the tongue, or actually finding an image of a dog tongue and collaging that into it. Could be really fun and bring in one more texture and just a little bit more contrast into the piece. All right, and that is the last one. So I'm going to jump back over. Okay. Whoops, wrong button. So it's just down to the three of us. Do either of you have any questions, comments, concerns?
When we send in a reworked piece, would you like us to send in also a new rubric?
Wait, did she freeze for a second?
Oh no.
Oh no, she's frozen again. Or did my whole computer just... Wait, are you there? Anyone here?
Hello.
Oh, hello there.
Oh, hello. He's frozen on your side too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like... Okay.
Froze. I don't know. But anyway, great job on your work. I really liked it.
Oh, thank you. Yours is really good too.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope to get a new scanner so I could send in a better quality photo. See if I maybe go to the settings here. If I alert her through the text. Just real quick. Alright, so I guess that's it for the chat. What do you think?
I guess. I don't know. I guess we should just leave.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But
Bye.
see you next week.